Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. It appears that unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua is resigned to the fact he may have to give up one of his heavyweight titles. Joshua is currently in negotiations with two mandatory challengers. In the IBF, it's Kubrat Pulev, and in the WBO, it's Oleksandr Uysk. Both mandatories were called immediately after Joshua's win over Ruiz Jr. He was given 30 days to negotiate with the challengers. That deadline is fast approaching. And immediately after that Ruiz win, Joshua very bullish about, keeping the belts together. He wasn't interested in seeing one of them go elsewhere. He wanted to keep them together for obvious reasons. But now he's made some comments to Sky Sports that it's a perceptible shift, a change in his tune. He says, "I've always said the belts do not represent me. I will stand as a champion even if I have to give one up. It would give me an opportunity to face another world champion. I've beaten 4 world champions on my record now. If I give a belt up, it creates more history and entertainment. If I have to, I'll give it away, but I'll get it back again." Anthony Joshua's statements to Sky Sports. So a shift in tone from Joshua. Perhaps some of the negotiations aren't nearly going as well as he would have hoped. Because remember, these challengers don't necessarily just want to cede to anything that Joshua wants to sort of throw their way. Because obviously their careers, and in Oleksandr Usyk's case, he's co-promoted by Matchroom, but he doesn't necessarily have to do anything that Eddie Hearn or Anthony Joshua wants to do because he's got his own management team and they will have their own aspirations. So if they have been playing hardball and refusing to take a step-aside fee, well, that could see Joshua stripped of the WBO title because it's more than likely he will face Kubrat Pulev. That much is clear. Eddie Hearn has sort of signalled that's likely to be the next fight, likely in May. And if the WBO belt gets stripped, because obviously he can't fight both guys at once, and there's, the WBO and IBF have given him an order to negotiate and come to a deal. If he doesn't get to a deal, he gets stripped. That's actually not a terrible situation for the broader Matchroom banner, with Usyk being a co-promoted fighter for Matchroom, and the likelihood Usyk would face either Joseph Parker or Derek Chisora. There's been a lot of talk about a Usyk and Chisora fight for some time in March, either March the 7th or March the 28th. And Joseph Parker is number 2 in the WBO, and in the normal course of events, number 1 would face number 2 for the vacant belt. But with Joseph Parker set to return in the United States in February, that maybe will rule him out. I just don't know. I mean, you'd imagine that they'd drop everything and take a title shot if it came on offer. But we'll have to see what happens there. But Joshua, it is a perceptible shift in tone here, and maybe it signals that negotiations with either Pulev or Usyk, or both, have maybe not gone as according to plan as he would have liked, because Joshua, in the couple of weeks after his Ruiz win, very bullish, making statements, keeping the belts together, not interested in dropping a belt, but now sort of saying, look, the belts don't represent me. If I have to give one up, I can face the guy again and get it back. And actually, in the scheme of things, that probably works to Joshua's advantage if he can, for example, beats Pulev. In the meantime, Oleksandr Uysk has a title fight, becomes a champion. I think it creates a much bigger unification style event towards the back end of 2020. Because likely it was going to have to be Kubrat Pulev and Oleksandr Uysk anyway. But if Usyk has hardware, looks good, and beats whoever he faces for the title, then obviously a unification between Joshua and Usyk becomes a much bigger deal, maybe a much bigger sort of stadium fight than it otherwise would have been. And for Joshua's legacy, as he alluded to, he would be beating another champion, he would be unifying the division once more, reclaiming a belt that he did held back. So, it would actually be, in some ways, maybe better for Joshua's overall legacy and career as a whole, if he is actually inadvertently, or maybe not inadvertently, forced to drop a belt. And for the Matchroom side of the fence, I'm sure they will be quite happy with proceedings if Usyk faces one of their own guys and it's all sort of kept in-house, money in-house, belt in-house, and then have a unification with Joshua later in the year. It would be just a money go-round and a very big year for Matchroom. and ultimately they probably make more money and have more pay-per-views courtesy of the whole situation of Joshua being forced to drop a belt. But interesting comments from Joshua, and I guess, he's not necessarily defined by the belts, but to some extent he is, because he clearly wants them, and he wants them back if he's forced to drop them. And for his legacy, the more belts he picks up, the more, top 10, top 20 guys that he beats in the heavyweight division. It certainly fattens out his legacy overall. But what do you make of it? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.